Is this the car to worry Tesla and Toyota? It's called the BYD Sealion 6, and while it has a silly name, it has the potential to be a serious challenger to some of the biggest car brands in this country. That's because not only is this BYD's first hybrid, and a plug-in hybrid no less, it's also the brand's first mid-size SUV. So far, BYD has had plenty of success challenging Tesla as an all-electric brand, so can it now do the same to the likes of Toyota, Mazda, Mitsubishi and more? Let's find out. Let's start by talking about the price, because sharp pricing has been a key to BYD's success in Australia so far. There are two Sealions to choose from, Dynamic and Premium, starting at $48,990 for the former and $51,990 for the latter. For context, the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid range begins at $42,250 for the GX and runs to $51,410 for the range-topping model. While if you're looking at an electric alternative, the Tesla Model Y currently starts at $55,900. Technically speaking, the closest rival as a plug-in hybrid is the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, which ranges from $57,290 all the way up to $73,790. For the money that you pay though, there's a pretty comprehensive list of equipment across both Sealion variants, with the biggest difference being the powertrain, which we'll detail later. Both the Dynamic and Premium come with 19-inch alloy wheels, a power-operated tailgate, a panoramic sunroof, powered front seats that are both heated and cooled, a 15.6-inch touchscreen, an Infinity Premium audio, 2 wireless phone chargers, and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The only non-powertrain difference between the Dynamic and the Premium is a head-up display on the latter model. One noticeable absence though from the Sealion is a spare tyre, not even a space saver. Instead, there's just a tyre repair kit, which is disappointing in this day and age. Now, if you want to know more about the pricing or specification of the BYD Sealion 6, make sure you check out my written review at carsguide.com.au. Moving on to design, which can be a bit of a controversial topic with Chinese cars because, let's be frank, the Chinese car industry does have a history of perhaps being not totally original with its designs. The Sealion 6 though, look, let's be candid. There are elements of certain European, let's call them German SUVs in the front design. There's a little bit of German SUV in the back. But I've got to say, overall, I actually quite like it. I think in this era of actually bland electric, hybrid vehicles, it actually has a homogeneous and somewhat stylish look to it, even if it's not 100% original. One area where the Sealion is a cut above the competition is its size, being longer and wider than a RAV4. Those generous external dimensions translate into a roomy cabin, which does have some nice design, flair to it without being quite as over the top as the Atto 3, its smaller sibling. It's a good cabin. It's actually a thoughtful cabin. There's good storage space. You've got cup holders. You've got a shelf down the bottom there. One thing I do really like is you've actually got dual wireless charging pads for your smartphone, so whoever's in the front seat can both charge their phone, which is great. The back seat, again, roomy, plenty of space. It's good. One thing I do like about the Sealion 6 over the Seal that I've previously tested is it does have a proper sunshade, like a power sunshade, as opposed to the manual system that's in the Seal, which frankly sort of baffles me. And speaking of baffling me, I still am trying to understand the purpose of the rotating touchscreen. It's a cool party trick. It's great, but frankly, when it's vertical, it just feels like it's in the way. Also, with my polarized sunglasses, I can't see it on this angle. It just seems, frankly, like one more thing to go wrong. So, I've never actually sat in an alternative car and looked at the touchscreen and thought, geez, I wish it was the different orientation. So, it's a cool party trick, but it does feel a bit like a gimmick. But overall, I actually quite like the cabin. I think, like I say, good space, good practicality, and, a sort of a premium look and feel to it. Like I said, plenty of space in the back. This is behind my driving position. I'm about 6 foot tall. As you can see, I've got knee room, knee clearance behind my own self, and again, the front seat, there's even more space on the other side. So, you know, for families, particularly even families with older teen children, you know, this is a practical alternative. And of course, if you've got older teen children, thankfully it's got both a USB-C and a USB-A charging point, so everyone can keep their technology. So again, it's a very family-friendly package. As for the boot, well, it's got decent space. It's got 574 litres, and it's a good load area. It's a nice high floor. However, part of the reason it's got so much space is it is missing that spare. You've only got the tyre repair kit, which does count against it from a practicality and safety point of view. As for what powers the Sealion 6, well, that's BYD's new dual mode intelligence, or DMI, otherwise known as a hybrid system to you and I. Basically, it's your standard plug-in hybrid powertrain. So you've got a petrol engine paired with electric motors. But like I said at the start, there's a big difference between what you get in the Dynamic and the Premium. The Dynamic is powered by a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine paired with a single electric motor, making for a combined system output of 160 kilowatts and 300 newton meters. And notably, this powertrain only drives the front wheels. In contrast, the Premium has an all-wheel drive setup that combines a turbocharged version of the petrol engine with a pair of electric motors, one on the front axle and one on the rear, to produce a combined output of 238 kilowatts and 550 newton meters. Both models get the same 18.3 kilowatt hour Blade battery, which is BYD's proprietary technology that underpins all of its models and is actually attracting attention from other brands. So how efficient is this plug-in hybrid powertrain? Well, there's multiple modes to drive it in, including electric only, with the Dynamic able to go up to 92 kilometers on a single charge, while the Premium manages a still impressive 81 Ks. However, it is important to note that these are DEDC standards, which are not the more real-world like WLTP, so you may not achieve those in practice. The claimed fuel consumption is also impressive at 1.1 litres per 100 Ks for the Dynamic and 1.4 litres per 100 Ks for the Premium. Although again, achieving those in the real world will take some effort. With a 60 litre fuel tank, BYD claims the Dynamic has a driving range of over 1,000 kilometres, while the Premium can manage just over 960. One other notable feature worth mentioning is this vehicle to load function, which means you can plug in this special adapter and basically, instead of putting electricity into the battery, you're sucking it out. You've got this special adapter, it's got 2 power points. So for example, if you go for a picnic or something, you can take your coffee machine. So it's a cool little bonus function that you get with, you know, modern electric cars. Plug-in hybrids tend to attract a mixed response these days. Some people see them as simply, you know, a stopgap technology that doesn't really, that's frankly neither here nor there. It's not a battery electric vehicle, it's not an internal combustion engine, therefore it's kind of compromised on both fronts. It doesn't actually do, you know, either job as well as it could. The alternative argument is, and it's one that the Sealion 6 makes quite well, this is a great, you know, bridging technology. This is a step from someone who has gone from driving a conventional petrol car, even, to be blunt, you know, a conventional hybrid, into that next step towards electrification. Because in the case of the Sealion 6, it's got decent battery range in theory. And so, you know, if you are disciplined with charging, and that is really the key with a plug-in hybrid, if you are disciplined in charging it regularly, if you've got the capacity to do that every day or every couple of days, then you can drive around and not really use any petrol whatsoever. And you can actually rely on that electric only mode to, you know, get you through your daily commute. If you've got a short sort of, if you're only driving, you know, 50, 60 kilometers every day, you know, you're never going to really need to use any of that petrol. So, you know, the petrol engine doesn't have to kick in. But equally, the plus side of the plug-in hybrid is if you do need to go further, if you don't charge it every day, then you can drive as far as you want. Like, say you can drive nearly 1,000 kilometers before you have to fill it up. And so it gives you the best of both worlds. But the thing that appeals to me, especially about the Sealion 6, is it's very quiet. You know, it's got that, you know, the electric motor can do a lot of the low speed driving for you. You don't have that petrol engine kicking in all the time, and so, you know, frankly, that just makes for a bit more of a pleasant experience. I wouldn't say BYD is maybe a match for the likes of, you know, Mazda, Hyundai, Kia in terms of, you know, the dynamic qualities of this as an SUV. You know, a CX-5, a Tucson, a Sportage are nicer to drive. This, you know, the steering is very, very light. I would argue too light. Like, obviously you don't need heavy steering in an SUV. It's not about steering feel per se. It's not about throwing it into corners and feeling dynamic, but just in terms of the way it does steer, it does feel very light, and it's a bit of a dead zone in the center. So that's an area for improvement. The ride is okay. It's, you know, again, it could be better. It's a little, you know, fussy at times, but overall, I would actually say this is a pleasant, you know, family-friendly SUV, because that's really what it is, right? This is the kind of vehicle that, yeah, if you're a family, you want something like this in terms of its size, its space. And so if you're able to have that efficiency where if you're just, I don't know, if you're just running the kids to school every day, that's the majority of your driving, great, you can just run that on electric power. But if you do want to take the big trip at the end of school term, you don't have to worry about having a second car or worried about where you're going to charge it. You can just drive. And I think that is the appeal of a plug-in hybrid to some. But, you know, again, that key is the discipline to recharge. If you can do that, it makes sense. If you're the kind of person who's only going to charge it once, then frankly, you know, you may as well just buy a petrol car. But look, BYD's technology, this is the same sort of technology we're going to see in the Shark, the Ute later in the year. You know, BYD has made it very clear it is a new energy vehicle company rather than an electric company. And so if they are going to introduce more hybrids like this, I certainly think they're going to have a wider appeal to more people. In terms of safety, ANCAP has not crash tested the Sealion 6 at the time of us filming this review, but it does have a fairly comprehensive list of safety items, so it should tick most of the boxes when it comes to protecting its occupants. Both variants come equipped with autonomous emergency braking, front and rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning, rear collision warning, lane departure warning and prevention, blind spot detection, traffic sign recognition, door opening warning, auto high beam and 360-degree monitor, which is a very clever parking system. Plus, you can even detect if you've left a child or pet inside the car. As for its ownership credentials, the Sealion is covered by BYD's 6-year, 150,000 kilometre warranty. So what is the verdict on the Sealion 6? Well, even for a moment putting aside its very fuel-efficient powertrain, it's a very appealing and likeable mid-size SUV. It offers up good value, it's got great space and practicality. And then when you do factor in that powertrain, having a plug-in hybrid, particularly if you are disciplined with recharging, it's gonna save you money at the petrol bowser. So if I was Toyota or Tesla or Mazda, Hyundai, you name it, I certainly would be worried about the growth of BYD. Now, if you want to know more about the BYD Sealion 6 or any of its other models, make sure you check out my in-depth written reviews at carsguide.com.au.